Brictopian. Hello, it's Brictopian here again, and this is a quick unboxing and review for the LEGO Minifigures Series 23. I should have all of the figures because I managed to get them knowing what they already are, but I'll have to be sure by opening them. These are all of them. As you can see, they've been resealed because I managed to get them from eBay, so they've actually been checked, so hopefully it should all be right. Anyway, let's see which ones they are. So the first one, I'm trying to work out what it feels like without looking, but I can't really tell, really. It's hard to tell. I don't know how people worked this out, but I can only feel the base that you put the minifigure on. I can feel in there, but it's hard to tell what it is. But I think this one could be the elf one, but I could be wrong. Let's see what it is. There's the head I can see in there, so it's definitely not the elf one. I think I know what it is now. I think it's the Nutcracker, because there's the little nut as well. That looks cool. Printed piece. So, yeah, that's the first one. You get two nuts in this, I believe. You get two of them, one normal and a spare, and they're really cool. And then you get the figure has quite a few gold pieces, and you actually get two swords, even though the figure only holds one. So actually one of these is a spare as well. And then not only that, but you get two of these as well, these shoulder pads, and one of them's a spare too. So you actually get a spare of 3 of the parts of it, which is really cool. Anyway, let's have a look at the figure. So here's the figure when it's built. As you can see, it is in fact the Nutcracker, and I think the best part of the figure, and probably the main bit you'd feel for, is actually the hat, because the hat is really cool. It's like quite a big tall top hat type thing in black, and it's actually got sort of chromy metallic gold printing on it, which looks really nice, including this curved piece that's along the bottom part of the hat. And you can see it's even got these tufts of material at the side in white, which look really good too. And I like the face expression on the Nutcracker because it looks like his teeth are going to actually crack a nut. And on the back you even get an alternative face, which is just him smiling. It looks cool with a big moustache on it, and I even like the little red pinky cheeks on it. Looks good too. I like getting the sword in gold because we don't get in gold that often, but obviously it's not a new piece or anything, but it's still nice to get this piece in this minifigure. The printed 1x1 tile was probably the best part though, because you could use that in other things, such as making little mocks with food and things like that, etc. This figure is really good, and I even like the torso print. It just looks amazing, and you could probably even use this to make a soldier or an armed guard if you wanted, for something like a London build or even something more generic. And on the back is very simple though, there's just a black line there and hasn't really got a lot to show. The legs though are also great because they're dual molded, and they even have little golden lines to show the laces, which is something I hardly ever see LEGO do in figures. Anyway, let's have a look at what the next figure is. So the next one, again, I still can't really tell what it is, but I feel like there's something round in here and it feels quite bumpy, so I've got a feeling it could either be the Snowman or it could be something that comes with a pumpkin, such as the Thanksgiving turkey. I've got a feeling it might be that one. Anyway, let's find out. This one actually has a bag inside a bag, and I don't know why. I still don't know why they do that in some figures, and other ones they don't. It's very strange to me how they decide which ones have it and which ones don't. And when they're cutting back on plastic, I didn't think they would want to have a bag inside a bag. But this one, as you can see, is the Thanksgiving turkey, or as I'd call it, the Christmas turkey, because I don't have Thanksgiving in this country. So anyway, let's have a look at this figure. So here you can see this figure, which is the turkey, or the Thanksgiving turkey, and it is a costume minifigure, so it's got a moulded head on there, which I believe is the same piece used for the chicken, but just recoloured. It has a red head and it's got blue surrounding the eyes. It comes with a pumpkin and it has a green bit of vegetable on top for the stem or attachment to the plant. And the only spare piece in this figure is another top for the pumpkin. You don't get any other spare parts. It would have been good to get a spare tail, but that is quite a big piece, so I can understand why they didn't do it. It's good to get another bird type figure that's not a chicken or anything like that, because we've got quite a few chicken style ones, so it's nice to get something different. And I really like the big tail at the back, and it actually attaches above the legs rather than around the neck, and it sticks out quite a lot, and it does take up quite a lot of the overall size of the minifigure, and it's the main bit you would feel for when looking for this figure. I like that it's got an angry face, which is quite funny because they obviously don't like being cooked or being eaten, which is quite funny. But it's got an alternative face as well, but you can't see it when it's like that because the tail takes up so much space that it actually blocks it out even when you are looking at it. But if you see there, you can see the other one is smiling, so obviously this version of the turkey doesn't mind being eaten. He's just happy to be there. You've got the arms, which are wings, and you can pose them at different angles. You can have them straight up, or you can have them behind or in front, and I prefer to have them down though because it goes better with the shape of the body. These also have dual molded legs, which is also good, and they've got red and brown, and there's no printing on them though this time. You can put the figure back together, and it's just, you can see all of the detailing on it. You can see on the torso as well there's printing on both sides, although the only difference is that on this side it's got more tufts of fur showing with the black lines, whereas on this side it's only got a couple at the bottom, but it's got the red bit at the top as well on both sides. So overall I think this is a good figure, and it's quite good to have another animal costume figure, even though we have got quite a lot of them already. I didn't say it's one of my favourite ones, but it's still a nice one to have, and I think this would probably appeal mostly to the American market where they have Thanksgiving, although we do have turkey a lot in the UK at Christmas. Anyway, let's see what the next figure is. The next figure, I've got a feeling could be something along the lines of this robot, because I can feel the box at the top of the head, but I could be wrong. But anyway, hopefully, because I do like that one. It's one of the coolest ones, if you ask me. Anyway, let's see. So inside you've got lots of blue azuri type coloured pieces, and like I say, it's the box part of the head that stands out as being the easiest to feel. You get 2 pairs of scissors, one's a spare, and I think that's it for spares in this particular figure. Anyway, let's have a look at the figure built. Actually, before I say that, I'm going to show you that there's actually some printing underneath the bit that gets covered up by the box of the head, because this part will cover that up. But you can see here there's just a cut line for scissors along that part of the outfit, and there's a silver belt along the middle part. On the back there's just the same basically, except there's no little triangular detail in the middle of the belt on the back as a belt buckle. There's the figure built, and you get this cool little printed tile, which is a 2x2 tile, and it shows a little computer on it or a little piece of technology. And all of this is meant to be cardboard because it's called the cardboard costume robot, and you can see how good it is. And I love the color scheme of the blue with the orange. It looks really vibrant, although if they wanted to make it look cardboard, they probably should have used more cardboard style colors like nougat or brown or tan, but I still really like the design of it. And there's so much printing on this that really stands out, such as the arm printing that's got a chromy silvery coloured duct tape on the arm, and the arms even have dual printing because they're got blue and orange even on the arms. And there's even an on and off switch on this side, which looks really good to me. It looks really like it's drawn on, which is exactly how it should look for this figure, because it's supposed to be one that's made. And the legs again are dual molded once again, so there's quite a few figures in this series that are like that. I love that there's even little bolts or drawings of bolts on even on the feet that match around this part of the body. I would have perhaps liked a figure that had just a proper whole robot head, but I do like costume figures, and this one is still a good one to have. They could have, another thing they could have done is put little antennae on the sides of the head to stick up. Might look good, but it's still good to have. And then the scissors are just basic silver coloured scissors, and they can represent them cutting the material and making the outfit. The alternative face is quite similar, but they look a bit concerned, so maybe they've accidentally cut their costume wrong and ruined it. Anyway, let's have a look at the next figure. So the next figure feels a bit like it's got wings or something. I'm not entirely sure, but it feels like it might. Although I can feel something that's long and pointy there. So that could be a candy cane, or it could be, in fact, a stick piece for the horse on the knight. I've got a feeling it might be this one, actually. So let's see if I'm right. Oh no, I'm not. I was right the first time. It is actually the fairy, and that is a candy cane. The candy cane piece stand out to me, but yeah, it could have been the horse piece for the horse the stick of the horse in the night. But yeah, the candy cane piece looks really cool. I love that it's a new mold, and it's like just one of the normal lightsaber pieces, but it's got the curved bit on the end. And I don't know why they haven't done this piece sooner, really, and it just looks really good with the two colours on. So anyway, let's have a look at this figure built. So here's the figure fully built. You can see you actually get a spare crown piece, which is the only spare piece with this figure. It's in white, which I don't believe has been done in white before. The figure itself is really good, and I like how they put a hole in the hair so you can put a crown on it, and it really adds to the feeling of this figure. It's called the Sugar Fairy because it's got loads of sprinkles on it, including on the legs, which are actually printed on there as well. The torso's got nice silver details, although they don't always stand out at every angle, but if you hold the light right, they look really good. The head has even got sprinkles on the face, which is really nice, and the hair is not a new piece, but it's nice to see it in this colour more, and you do get an alternative face, and both of them are smiling, which makes a nice change, but I think I like this face better. The wings I don't think are a new piece, but they are new printed because they even have silver detailing on, and I think that's probably the highlight of this figure, apart from the candy cane part. The candy cane is obviously my bit that I think is most useful and the most fun to have as a new piece, but those printed wings do look good, and they're probably the main bit you'd feel for when looking for this figure, although it was the candy cane that stood out to me. Anyway, let's have a look at the next figure. Right, so the next one, I can feel something quite curved in there. It feels quite solid, and it's got some bits that stick out on the edge of it. I've got a feeling this one might be this one, the elf style one, because of some of the textures I can feel in there feel a bit like hair, but I could be wrong. Anyway, let's find out. Actually, I am wrong. This figure is the dragon. It's the green dragon, which is exactly the same as the red dragon that they did back in, I believe, Series 18, but it's now in green. I actually think the green might look better for a dragon. Anyway, let's see what the figure looks like built. So here's this figure fully built. As like I said, it is the green dragon. The only thing you get spare is one of these teeth pieces, which is used as a horn at the back of the head. It's a shame you don't get two spare ones, as the figure itself has two. But it's nice to get at least one spare, because I imagine they're a piece that could get lost the most. You don't get any accessories with this figure, which is a shame, and it would have been a nice difference to have had compared to the red version of this from an earlier series. If they'd had something else, like even flames coming out of the face, would have been really cool to have seen. But yeah, it's the same as the red one, and that's why, in my opinion, it's one of the not so good figures from this series, because it is so similar. Although I do think the green perhaps looks better as a dragon. I love the tail again, and I do love this headpiece still though. And the wings are the same, and they do look really good though. The feet have printing on to show claws at the bottom of the feet. I can't remember if the red version had this or not now, but I think it did. The torso has got a nice print on again, and it's got like little muddy detailing on, or scaly skin, and the back doesn't have any printing on though. You do get an alternative face, but I like this main face because I like the eyebrows, how they're raised up like they're about to breathe fire or they're angry. But the alternative face is also good, and it's smiling and it's happy. There's no dual molded legs on this one, and this figure did come in a separate little plastic bag as well, just like one of the others, which again I find confusing. Anyway, let's have a look at the next figure. The next figure feels like it could be another costumes one, and I can feel some bumpy elements for either head or an ear or something that sticks out in there. And let's have a look. So this one, as you can see, is a reindeer. Let's have a look at this reindeer. So, and this is the reindeer minifigure. I like this one because it's another animal costume one. I think it's probably one of the best ones of the animal costumes in this particular series. I think it's probably my favourite, I would say, out of the 4 that are in this series, because you actually get 4 in this series, which is unusual because normally you only get 1 or 2 in a series. I like this one because I like how the antlers can go on the top and they can be removed, and it's cool that they've had them as a separate piece. And you do actually get a spare of the antlers as well, which is really good, so that you could add them on something else if you wanted, like on a hairpiece, which would be cool to have a person with antlers on. I think this figure is really good as well because I like how their face actually has a gap in the teeth like reindeer do, which is quite cool. And I've never seen a minifigure before that has teeth like that, so that's really cool they've included that. And I like the shininess of the bell print on the torso as well. And they just use the usual fur print that they do on a lot of figures. The only thing is you don't get a proper tail, which is a shame. It's just printed on. I would have liked an actual piece for that. And then there's just a bit of red showing, you can see, for the top underneath at the back. And at the front is the, and actually, sorry, no, it's not a top, it's the collar. You get an alternative face, which is also good and also has the teeth with that nice gap in the middle. It's more of a normal smile on this one, whereas on this side it's with the eyes closed, and I prefer this one because I think it's more unusual and unique. You also get this cool, nice 1x1 printed tile that has a heart on it, and it's supposed to represent an iced cookie, and I think it looks really good. And you actually get a spare of that as well in this for this figure. So you get 2 of those. That would be good for Christmas mocks and for putting with Christmas displays like the Winter Village sets, etc. So this is a really good figure. It's probably one of the best animal ones that Lego's done, I would say. Probably not my favourite ever, but it's still a really good one. And this is a new mould as well, I believe. They've never used this mould for anything else. And yeah, it hasn't got dual molded legs, which is a shame, but it has got prints for the hooves on the feet. Anyway, yeah, let's see the next figure. No, sorry, before I say what the next figure is, actually I need to show you this. This is a present that you get with the figure as well. It's got a bow on the front to show decoration, and it's got silver little stars around the edge as well to decorate a 2x2 tile, which is then just put on top of this crate piece in this nice blue colour that matches the blue of the robot on one of the previous figures I showed you. So you get that, and you could actually put the cookie inside the box. You could put the spare one in there if you wanted to, because I forgot to mention that when talking about this figure. Anyway, let's see the next figure. So the next figure, I'm trying to feel, not entirely sure what this one is, but I can feel, it feels like there could be some kind of, quite a large brick piece in there. I've got a feeling it might be the dome that's from this figure, but I could be wrong. But it feels like it's going to be the elf, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's find out. I think I've got it right this time. Yeah, I have. It is the elf. It's the elf figure, because it's this dome piece. Anyway, let's look. So here's the elf figure. I think it's just called Christmas Elf, but I can't remember if it has another name or not. But this figure I really like, and you can feel because of the dome of these. It's supposed to be a snow globe, which looks really good. And I like how they've printed little white dots on it, so it looks like snow. And inside, you actually make a little tiny brick built house, which is really nice, and it actually fits inside the globe, which is really cool. And it's got a print on the one side of it, so it actually has a door and windows on. It's amazing how they got so much detail on such a small scale, and this is one of the best parts of the entire wave of these minifigures, I think, is having this as an accessory. And what's even better still is you actually get a spare of the house. So not only do you get one, but you get an extra one. And you get both the roof piece and the printed tile, the printed plate, I mean. So you can actually build an extra one, and you could use that in anything. You could use that in a bedroom of a mock for like a little ornamental shelf house, or you could just use it to make another globe or something. You could use it for lots of different things. But it's really cool they included that as a spare, and you get this single stud in white as well, which goes on the bottom. The figure itself has some really good parts. I love the hair, how it sticks out so much at the side in its orange colour. The legs are short style legs, but they still have lots of different colour printing on. They've actually got 3 colours worth of printing on there, because there's white, there's green, and then there's black for the actual shoes. It's amazing that there's 3 different levels of colour for legs that this length. I haven't seen Lego do this, although they probably have, but I haven't seen it been done before. You get a nice belt there with a nice gold belt buckle. You get a bit of a collar at the top in red, and the back is very plain. It just continues that design around the back, and so do the legs continue. There's no printing on the arms, but they are a different colour to the rest of the outfit. They are a lighter green, which I really like. The hat itself is great because it's moulded to the hair, so it's one single piece, whereas in the past they might have done that as separate pieces. You get the nice little stick out ears as well. You get you get a print on both sides of the face. You get a normal smile, and then more of a one-sided smile as well that goes up at the side, and I prefer this one, I believe, of the 2 face prints. So yeah, it's a good figure. It's not one of my favourites probably. Overall, I would say it's not one of my favourites, but it's certainly not a bad figure, and it's a good to have on a Christmas display. But the highlight of this figure is definitely the accessory. Anyway, next up, let's see what this one is. It's hard to tell from feeling it what this one could be. I'm not entirely sure. I can mainly feel the base of the figure again, and I think I know what this one might be. I think this one could be the knight, because I reckon it feels like the top of the horse piece, but I'm not entirely sure. Let's see. Oh no, it isn't. It's this one. I actually forgot about this figure being in this series. It's the popcorn suit. This one is probably not one of my favourites either, but it's still going to be useful, especially to put with sets like the Palace Cinema. The figure itself has no printing whatsoever on it, which is why it's probably one of the least good figures in the series from a technical point of view, because the torso has no printing on it at all. It's literally plain. There's no arm printing, and the legs are basic mid-length dark red ones. They've got no printing on either. So the only good part of the figure is the actual popcorn suit part. Although considering that it's what it's supposed to represent, the fact it's completely plain probably does make sense. It's got 2 faces though on both sides, as all of the figures so far, I believe, in this series have all had faces on both sides. You've got a smile there, and then a even bigger smile on this side. The popcorn itself looks really good, and they have done quite a few food related costume figures in the past, and I think this is still probably one of the better ones though. and it's good to at least get these mid legs again, because I don't get many mid leg figures. I like the stripes and how it actually says popcorn on it, and around the back it just continues, except there's no popcorn written on the back. The shape of it's really good. I like how they got the shaping. It does work really well. But I feel like this figure is quite plain compared to some of the others when it's mostly white. I also think the legs should have been bright red to match the stripes of the bright red on the packaging of the popcorn. Anyway, there's no accessories with this one, and there's no spare parts either, which is another reason it's probably one of the weaker figures. After that one, you have what feels to be something that could be another animal figure, because I can feel what feels like a head piece that's got perhaps pointy bits on that could be ears. I think, considering what's left, I think this could be the wolf, because that's the only animal costume figure that's left that I haven't got yet. So yeah. And it appears that that's what it is. So this figure comes with only one accessory, and it is the wolf. It's not supposed to be a werewolf, it's just a normal wolf, which is nice to get, because most figures we've got in Lego that represent wolves have been werewolves. This one is just supposed to be a normal wolf. The accessory you do get is a bag, and it's like a sack, and they have used this for other minifigures that are similar, that are costume ones, because we've had the fox before, and we've also had a raccoon, and both of them came with bags. This one though does have printing on, because it's got some like stitch pattern on the side of the bag, which is something the others that are similar to this didn't have, so that's a nice improvement. And I also prefer the colour of the nougaty bag to the other colour ones which we got. The figure itself is good, although it is not that unique. I feel like it's very similar to the fox and raccoon ones we got, so it's a bit of a shame they didn't go for something a bit more different as another animal costume rather than a wolf, but it is slightly different to those. And I like the two teeth at the front that stick out. The legs have got two lots of printing on, but they're not dual molded, and I like how they've got like sort of ripped material at the bottom of the legs, which looks really good, and it's like overalls, and they look even a little bit ripped at the top as well. And then you do get a tail at the back, which is in grey, and I believe this is the same piece as used on the fox as well, but it's in grey, dark grey. And then you get the head, I really like, because it actually looks like he's blowing, which I really like that, because it reminds me of the Three Little Pigs story where he's blowing down a house. It looks really good like that. And the big eyebrows work really well as a fox. And on the alternative face you also get big bushy eyebrows, and you get him licking his lips like he's about to eat a pig. So yeah, it's good that the face prints are the best part of this figure, I think, because they're quite unique and they match the figure well, and they make this figure a better figure. But the accessory isn't that exciting, and the molds are not that exciting. So I'd say it's a good figure, but it's not my favourite out of these animal costume ones that come here. I would say the best one at the moment out of the animal costume ones would be probably the reindeer out of this series. And this is the four. There's 4 animal costume ones in this series. Like I said, there's this one, which is the wolf. You've got the reindeer, the dragon, and then you've got the turkey. This one, I can feel something very round in there that sticks out. Feels very bumpy. I reckon it might be a hat or something. It's got like a sort of a rim around it. So I've got a feeling this one is going to be the Snowman, because there's not many figures left now, and most of them don't have hats. So it's got to be either the Snowman or the Ferry Captain, and I think it's the Snowman because it feels quite round. And it is the Snowman. This one is probably my favourite figure in the series from the images I've seen, but I'll have to build it to know for sure. When you're building it, something you realise that you don't realise from images is that there's actually a head underneath. Whereas I thought it would just be plain, so it actually is supposed to be like a costume, or there's a person inside the snowman, which I think is really nice. And there's even sweat on their face to show how cold they are. It's got like a zipped outline of their face to show that it's a costume as well, which I really like. There is no alternative face though, which makes this the only figure in the series so far that does not have an alternative face. The outfit itself is pretty plain, but then it's supposed to be a snowman, so it would be. The legs are pure white, and they've got no dual moulding or anything, or detail. The top has just got 3 circles in black to represent coal on the front, and there's nothing on the back. But for this particular figure, the fact that it's plain feels very much acceptable. Once you add the head of the snowman, you can actually see a little hole for where the person's face is shown through. You can just see that one of their eyes poking through the gap, but you quickly cover this gap by adding a new carrot piece. It's actually a new shaped piece. At first I thought it was just a normal carrot or something, but it's actually a new piece, which is nice because they could have just done an old carrot, but they've actually done a new piece. It's quite long on the nose of it, but it actually still feels like it's really good for this figure. The figure also comes with a broom as an accessory in normal reddish brown, and I think this is a great accessory to have for a snowman. And the only spare piece you get is one of the carrots, but because this is a new piece, it makes it really good having this as a spare piece, because it would be useful for other things as well. It's a shame you don't get other spare pieces like the broom or the scarf, but I can understand that having this unique piece as a carrot is quite good to have as a spare piece. The top hat looks really good on top of the head, and it fits perfectly on a single stud that is moulded on the headpiece. And I love the smile using the dots on the face, and I even like the red scarf, and I think the red is a good choice. This reminds me a lot of the snowman from the animation, the snowman, and the way they've done it is just really good, and they couldn't have really improved on this figure at all, which is why it's probably my favourite figure on the series. I know again it's Christmas related, but it still feels really good just as a figure in general, not just because it's Christmas related. Next up is another one that feels very bulky, because there's a massive piece in the corner right here, and considering there's only 2 figures left to do, I think this one has got to be the Ferry Captain, because the only ones left I haven't got are the Ferry Captain and the Knight. I think this big bulky piece you're feeling is actually the ship, and it's worth saying that on the snowman figure I just did, the main bit you feel for is actually the hat or the dome head. Yeah, so this figure is the Ferry Captain. I like this one because it reminds me of the Titanic in the ship part, but I also like the vehicle style costume figures anyway, because they've done a car one before, and they've also done a plane. The figure actually looks quite good even without the boat part on. You could just have it as a normal ship captain, because it actually does look good even without the boat. And I like the simplicity of the jacket, but it looks really good with those gold buttons on. The legs have no printing, which is a shame, but it does fit well with the fact it's a uniform. I like the white hands as well, how they match the hat rather than being yellow. There's a slight bit of printing on the side of the arms, but not much, but it's enough that it still makes them interesting. There's no printing at all on the back of the torso or the legs. Another thing that's a shame is, unlike some of the other figures, this one has no alternative face. The snowman and this one are the only ones so far that do not, but I can understand why they didn't, because this has a hat that would show the face through, so in this case it makes sense there's no alternative face. The hat is really nice, and I love the two-tone colours of the black and the white, the little anchor logo on the top, and I also like how they've got the gold rim around the edge. This is easily the most obvious part to feel for. Here's the figure with the boat added, or ship. It looks really cool, but it does look really bulky, and I imagine if you're trying to display this figure on a shelf or on a stand or with other figures, this one could be a bit bulky on display, although I think that is half the fun of the figure. I like how it's got the little red pieces that are separate pieces that you can attach to represent the parts of the boat, like that release the smoke. And I even like the simple dots on the side to represent windows. It's good how the arms can fit perfectly in these shaped sides of the boat, so that you can have the arms right level. And I like how they've got the little rudder at the back of the boat even there as well. I think this is one of the better of the vehicle costume figures they've done, although I think the plain one might still be my favourite. You get just one single spare of these Technic-y type pieces. I don't know what they're actually called, but when I saw the images I thought it was a lipstick piece, but it isn't. You just get one of those as a spare. You don't get any other spares. The figure itself is probably one of the better ones in the series, although I wouldn't say it's my favourite. Now, for the final figure in this series. If it's right, this should be the only one left. And this one should be the Knight of the Yellow Castle. And as you can see, that's what it is. This figure is definitely one of the best, I think, from the series, from what I've seen of it. And it might even be my favourite, I'm not sure. It's between this one and the Snowman. Anyway, let's look at it. Before I finish building the figure in its full form, I'd like to show you it with the just the underside torso. You can actually see that it's got the crown logo printed on the underside as well as on the outside of the bit on top, which is really good to get because it means they've put a lot of time and thought into designing this as a whole figure and not just what you see on the top of the armor. The back of it is printed with the pink as well. These are the mid legs, so they do bend, but they're not the full length ones, and I'm glad to see that we get more different colours of mid legs and have more than just one type of legs in this series, as in this series of figures you get ones with all three sorts of leg. The arms have got no printing on, but they are a different colour. They're sort of a sand blue colour, and the helmet is actually a normal crash helmet style piece in grey. You could even use this for something like a classic space grey figure, although it's not the classic space style helmet. But if you wanted to get this helmet piece in grey for something like that, you could even get it from this figure. Now let's see it with the armour on. It's also worth mentioning this figure does have two faces as well, just like the majority of them do. It's got a normal smiling one on this side, and then on this side it's got more of a determined expression that a knight may have. I'm not a huge fan though of the fact that the helmet is a different grey to the armour, which is more of a metallic silver, although this grey does match the legs, which is good. This figure is definitely one of my favourites, and it might even be my favourite, but it's still between this one and the Snowman at my number one. I love the golden visor part. That is probably the highlight of the figure for me, because I like how good it looks when it's down and how different it looks when it's up. And it just feels very bulky and protective for the figure. The shield is also amazing because it is printed and it's got the classic style crown on it that's from the very much original castle figures. And it matches nicely with the print that's on the armor and also the top and torso that is underneath. You get one of the nice blunt sword pieces that's in gold, and that matches nicely with the visor. And the legs don't have any printing on, but they are great as they are. And I love that you get this pink feather piece on top that a lot of knight type figures have, and it looks really good in pink, and it matches nicely with the pink on the shield. It does stick out quite high, but I feel like that is still fair enough to have, especially if they were having this figure on a horse or something. You don't get an actual horse with this figure, but you do get a representation of a horse through this toy one, which is a stick with a horse piece on the top. I love this piece, and I love the head of the horse on there. That is just a really cool piece. And you do get a spare of the stick that holds the horse. It's a shame you don't get a spare of the actual horse piece though. And you even get a spare of the golden sword as well. So the spares in this figure are particularly good as well. I would say there's not a lot really they can improve this figure at all, really. And I imagine there'll be a lot of people who would get a few of these to make an army if they really wanted to. Although this is meant to represent a child knight minifigure dressed up because of the horse on the stick. But I still think it's great, and it could easily represent a normal knight rather than a dressed up one. And here's the figure holding the horse instead of the sword. It's a shame you can't have somewhere to put this when it's not holding the sword, but you can't hold both unless you have this and the sword and not the shield. But I love the shield too much to not have the shield. But it does look really cool. It's hard to imagine them pretending to ride it, the horse, with it just like that, but it's still a fun inclusion, and it's something that I wouldn't have expected LEGO to do for a while, but I'm glad they've done it now. And it's a nice little representation of the 90 years by having a figure that's representing the figure from the Knights of Yellow Castle, which is one of the first ever castle sets. So this is an overview of all of the figures from Series 23. As you can see, you do get 12, and each of them have their own special quality to them and their own unique character. To me, the best two are definitely the Knight and the Snowman, because I think they have the best accessories and they're the most fun and most usable in different scenarios. I would say my least favourite is probably the Dragon, because it's just literally a recolour of the red version from Series 18. But it's still good if you want to have it with a castle and have a sort of a bit of a laugh with having it on display with castle stuff. And you could easily put this figure and that figure together. I like all of the figures though overall, and I'd say this is one of the best series LEGO's done for minifigures, although it isn't the best, I don't think. It's definitely not as bad as some people say, although I understand why they criticise the fact that for 90 years they haven't done a series that's got more stuff that represents the classic themes in it, because this is the only figure that really represents that sort of thing. And a lot of the figures represent Christmas stuff, which feels like they should have done this in December rather than in September. And also they could have left this to another year to do this series. I don't think they shouldn't have done this series, but I think they could have done it another year other than the 90 years. Because you get that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one, and that one, all represent Christmas related things, which is quite a lot to have in one series. It might have been better if they'd done this one, this one, this one, this one, and say this one and this one as a separate part of a separate series, and had them replaced with other Christmas related ones and done it as a whole Christmas series. That might have actually made more sense. But I still like the series, and I can't really say too much bad about it. There's a lot of good, and there's a lot of new molds and prints that haven't been done before, and I feel like that with the prints they've made more of an effort this series than they have other series, because there's so many, and especially with the dual molded legs they've got quite a few, and the fact that there's short legs, mid legs and long legs for the different figures means that you don't get too much of the same in terms of the height of the minifigures, which is good to see. There's a lot of accessories that can be removed, which makes them useful for other things, and also you get lots of great spare pieces, because overall you get quite a lot of stuff that's spare. So yeah, there's not much else I need to say on this really. The only other thing I could show you is the leaflet that comes with each of these. The leaflet, as you can see, represents all of the different figures you get, and this compares nicely with the 12 that you actually get, although I think once again, like in most cases with LEGO, the real thing does look better than in images. On the back it just shows you some of the figures and how to build them. The colour scheme for the packets I think looks nice, and it does show off the figures particularly well, and a lot of them do stand out. I don't know what made them choose this colour scheme for this series of figures, because they have used orangey coloured packets before, but I still think it works for this series. And here is one last look at the figures close up. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this series of minifigures. Here's a look again, and thanks for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe to more videos. You can tell me which figures you like the best and which ones you don't. Anyway, thank you. Goodbye.